history can't keep up with the demand. The way the world is now, all civilization is just burning down people on the outside. They don't fix up their homes, they want to turn them into fortresses. People are moving out of the city. I mean, it's funny how it's happening. It's the fourth turning. People, historical events, they don't just happen, they're set into motion by great men and generational persona. Each one of these unleashes a turning that lasts about 20 years, more or less. And every four turnings is a cycle, the length of a human life, and at the end of each, there's a crisis. In this country of crisis, results war. Revolution, 80 years later, Civil War. 80 years later, World War II. And that's kind of long, 80 years now, so.
October 16th, 2023, and I have another emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now it is 12:10 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States. and we currently have a B-1 nuclear bomber airborne over South Dakota and Montana. It is currently doing loops, and this is a nuclear capable bomber. And we have some concerning information coming out from an Israeli source known as Ynet, and they're saying that the Biden administration has considered the possibility of mobilizing strategic bombers to the Middle East if Hezbollah got involved in the war. U.S. defense officials have reportedly convinced the Israeli government not to launch a preemptive strike on Hezbollah forces in Lebanon, with them promising that U.S. naval assets in the Eastern Mediterranean, including the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier strike group, will provide military assistance if Hezbollah does launch a major attack against Israel. Okay, so this is huge news, guys. Okay, the Biden administration is telling Israel to stand down. Don't worry about Hezbollah. We're going to take care of them. And apparently they considered mobilizing strategic bombers, okay, if Hezbollah were to get involved. So that is pretty serious, and it just confirms everything that I've speculated, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have speculated. But as you see here, the U.S. military is on high alert. We have a B-1 nuclear bomber airborne this morning over South Dakota. We have a bunch of C-17 Globemasters going to Israel today. Here we have 3 last night that went to Israel. These are military transport planes, and they came from the U.S. And these are U.S. Air Force military cargo planes, and they came from Sigonella, Ramstein, and Lanarka. Also, here we have 4 this morning, 4, okay, coming in from Ramstein and Sigonella going to Israel. So 7 just probably in the last 12 hours, probably loaded with all kinds of weapons, spare interceptor missiles for the Iron Dome. I mean, who knows? Okay, cruise missiles, probably a ton of stuff, but that is just a massive amount of C-17s going to Israel. And here we have a sub-Hunter plane that was active late last night, operated by the U.S. Navy, and this is in the Eastern Mediterranean, patrolling this area to make sure that there's no Russian subs in this area that could threaten the carrier strike group, okay? And we had a Cobra Ball airborne last night in between Alaska and Russia, and this plane is used to detect missile launches. Okay, they detect the launch of missiles with this plane. So for them to scramble this thing in the middle of the night is pretty unusual, and for it to fly along the border.
The Gaza City neighborhood, once known as El Rimel, the Sands, reduced to ashes. Its residents retrieve what they can, which isn't much. Israel continues to pound the strip, targeting, it says, Hamas infrastructure. Residents in shock are asking why. I got married this year, says Yahya Al-Ahwal. What did I do? What have we done? You destroyed an entire neighborhood. He says he never fired a rocket. It is one of the most densely populated patches of land on Earth. Bombs crashing into crowded neighborhoods rarely differentiate between fighter and civilian. The death toll rises by the hour, while Gaza's hospitals are overwhelmed with the wounded, including infants. Around 40% of the population of Gaza is under the age of 15, according to the CIA. The Information Ministry in Gaza reports that nearly 170 buildings have been destroyed and more than 12,000 residences damaged. Tens of thousands have fled their homes, seeking refuge in UN schools converted into shelters. An oven in this bakery in Gaza City is shut down, many of the shelves empty. Life here was already difficult, and now the future looks bleaker than ever. Gaza will take 5 years to raise its head after this, says Wahiba Sirsawi, and after 5 years there will be 2 or 3 more wars. It's a catastrophe. And amidst all this, somewhere in Gaza, and Hamas knows where, are more than 100 Israeli captives, fates unknown. Tuesday afternoon, Israel struck Gaza's only port, which was used principally by
done so that Israel could check a box and say, hey, we allowed the humanitarian corridor, the safe passage from the north to the south for approximately 600,000 people, because of course we turned off all the utilities and then we turned the water back on in the south, knowing that after a few days without water, their survival instincts would kick in, so they all have to go down to the south anyways. Now we're going to lay the north to waste. They're going to completely annihilate the north. There will be no buildings left standing because the IDF is incredibly casualty averse. They're not going to risk the casualties of more than a few hundred soldiers, I don't think, which is why they're going to completely level that place, and that includes likely bunker busters in order so they can get right down into those tunnels that Hamas is notorious for, the hundreds of miles of tunnels in the Gaza Strip. At the same time, you're going to have the egress of foreign nationals out of the country on the southern border with Egypt. And they're also going to be allowing the safe passageway of around 100 semi-loads of supplies that the 2 million Palestinians are going to need, which is not going to be anywhere close to meeting the demands of those 2 million people. But again, it's all about checking a box. They simply don't care at this point, much like many of the Muslim countries of the world who don't want to accept Palestinians as refugees. Now, there are reasons for that. One of the reasons being is that they don't want to give tacit approval to the occupation. If they take in Palestinian refugees and the refugees just keep coming and there's no more Palestinian people in what used to be known as Palestine to some people, then there is never going to be any Palestine. And I think there's probably some political utility in having this conflict rage on in Israel for Muslim countries as well. We're going to get into that, but understand, after the egress of all these people from the north to the south, it's going to be completely annihilated. Hezbollah is likely going to enter the war. The United States is going to counter Hezbollah. Hezbollah is going to start shooting anti-ship missiles at the strike carrier groups. It's possible. It sounds far out. Lots of people don't know about Hezbollah, but they are a formidable fighting force. They took the IDF to task in 2006. Go and study that conflict. This is not going to be where they get completely ratioed like Hamas is currently getting ratioed or has historically gotten ratioed. It's almost kill for kill when it comes to a Hezbollah fighting force versus an IDF fighting force. They know the terrain, they are very well trained, they are very well armed, they have over 100,000 rockets, they have thousands of short-range ballistic missiles, anti-ship missiles, artillery. They have a lot of firepower. They also have the backing of Iran, who is recruiting hundreds of thousands of people, as well as Syria, as well as various groups in Iraq, all of which do not like Israel, as well as some Muslim countries who were at one point in normalization talks with Israel, but because of the plight of the Palestinians, and this is why this has been a complete PR disaster for Israel, and even if they completely win this one-sided battle, they are going to completely wipe the floor with Hamas. There's some people saying that, well, it's, it might drag out, it might be the next Bakhmut. Even I thought about that, but when I recall how casualty averse Israel is, they're likely just going to completely destroy the place first, leave no stone unturned for guys to hide in there. Then they're going to go in with their ground forces and eradicate everything that remains. Who knows what sort of tactics not approved under international law they are going to utilize, and they're going to go in there and they're going to, from their perspective, get the job done. But what this is going to do, this is going to create great anger within the Muslim community, Sunni or Shiite, across the Arab world. And if Arab leaders don't do something to side with the Palestinians, their opposition will politically leverage that against them, which is why you may even see countries like Saudi Arabia who are currently about to do military exercises with the Chinese, okay? Countries like Iran, countries like Qatar, they may well be forced to support the Palestinians in some capacity beyond just doing lip service. Now ask yourself this question. If you really take a look at the big picture about what's going on here, you have that Russian conflict, which is still ongoing, it is still raging, and in fact, it's starting to trend up again. I have some new information. Zelensky said that he anticipates a wholesale bombardment of the Russians to start any day now, and it's going to be wild. We also have a full-scale mobilization happening in Ukraine. You do not hear about this stuff on the mainstream media anymore, but just understand that prior to all of this, and what has been happening over the last 2 years, you've had BRICS, the emergence of BRICS. BRICS is very important because you've had the Saudis giving the United States the cold shoulder, becoming very cocky about the petrodollar, becoming very flippant about the importance of U.S. international hegemony. And as all of this support in the Middle East is starting to wane, suddenly we have this flare-up of stuff in the Middle East, and all of a sudden you have the movement of military force back into the Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf. It could very well be that the